Love does not envy. What does that mean? Well, in this teaching, we're going to continue this section of 1 Corinthians 13. And I want to just take a few minutes here and break down what it means when it says love does not envy. First of all, this section, there's, I believe, 8 truths that God lays out that love does not do. Love does not envy, doesn't boast, it's not proud, it's not rude, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, doesn't keep a record of wrongs, and doesn't delight in evil but rejoices in the truth. Well, a lot of times, when it's like, why would God put everything in the negative? Why would He express things as what it does not do? I was talking to my friend the other day, John Shainheit, and John and I, as we were discussing this, it's almost like if I say what love is, that only gives you part of the picture. But when we say love does not do this, there's just no wiggle room on it. If I say that love does not envy, you can't really get too much around that. So I think this is really important as we now go into this series about all the things that love does not do. Because just as if I am drinking a cup of coffee, I might think this is a wonderful cup of coffee, but I've never tasted a bad cup. I don't really know if this is good coffee or not. In the same sense, when God tells us what love does not do, it's very clear. It eliminates any possibility of wiggle room about getting around what we might think love is. Now, in this section where God says love does not envy, I want you to understand, Paul was writing to the Corinthian church. Corinth was a Roman colony sitting at a trading place where ships either had to go take a long voyage around the end of the Corinthian peninsula, or they could go across a short land little shortcut. They literally would pull these large boats, small ships out of the water, and with slave labor pull them across this land, or they would have to go around. But in any event, this Roman colony was a center of trade. And a center of trade made it a very wealthy city. And as a result, a lot of people's attentions, the Corinthians, were looking at material goods. There was a lot of people that had high positions and honorable spots of authority and things like this. So there was a lot of room for envy within this Corinthian church. And that's where Paul comes back and he says, love does not envy. Now, what does it mean, envy? Well, envy is when I am resentful of what another person has to the end that I want it. Now, let me think about this for a second. Envy is when I am resentful about them and I want what they have. I emphasize the I in that because envy is always about me. You think it might be about what another person has, but it's not. Envy's about me. And agape, the love that we're talking about here, agape love, is never about self. So agape can never have any focus on myself and what I want or what I need, and to the end that I want to take it from another person. Envy causes suspicion of other people. Envy destroys love. Envy covets gifts and possessions of other people. And I think envy is a huge problem in the Western world. There's a quote by a man by the name of Nathaniel Vincent in a book that I read called Leading with Love. And I'd just like to read this quote to you. Here's what Nathaniel said. He said, "How much hell is there in the temper of an envious man? The happiness of another is his misery. The food of another is his affliction. He looks upon the virtue of another with an evil eye, and is as sorry at the praise of another as if that praise were taken from himself. Envy makes him a hater of his neighbor and his own tormentor." Envy's insidious. Envy is absolutely insidious. And where there is envy, there is no agape love. In the Old Testament, David went to visit his brothers on the front lines when they were lined up against the Philistines with the battle by the valley, I believe, of Elah, where Goliath was confronting the armies of Israel. And it says in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 28 or 29, when Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him, David, speaking with the men, he, Eliab, burned with anger at him and asked, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave these few sheep in the desert?" You know, just listen to the demeaning language of Eliab here. There's contempt in Eliab's heart. See, envy a lot of times is born from a heart that has contempt in it. And contempt is never godly. Contempt is when you want to tear another person down or another ministry down. Contempt is, there's no love of God where there's contempt. And he says, "I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down here to watch the battle." Now, and here's what David says, "Now what have I done? Can't I even speak?" See, you know, Eliab had envy for David, and it was manifested in this wicked and evil heart of his. And then later, Saul, when he comes back in and the people were singing, they danced in 1 Samuel 18:7, it says, they danced and sang, "Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands." Saul was very angry with this refrain, and it galled him. They credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but me only with thousands. Oh my gosh. You know, this is envy that's living in the heart of Saul. You know, none of us are immune to envy. None of us are immune to envy. And, you know, where there's envy, it's going to destroy relationships. You know, envious people, they're not the kind of people who have many friends. They flee from it. Who wants to be around someone who's envious? You know, pastors sometimes, you know, they can be envious of another person's flock. You know, you could be envious, you know, in a ministry setting of another denomination, another church's success, the amount of people, the amount of money pouring into another person's ministry. See, envy is really insidious, and we've got to be really careful in this, because you could become envious of another person's gifts, another person's callings. You know, we need to be pure in our heart. We need to be off ourselves. And when we're living with agape love, our focus is always on others. Our focus is always with passion and devotion to God. It just results in this, how can I help you? What can I do to elevate you? What can I do to serve you? See, that's agape love. There's no envy in that. You know, I'm not worried about promoting myself, self-aggrandizement, any other, you know, building my own self-esteem. It's not about self. When I live in agape love, I become so focused on God, and I show my love for God by loving those around me, that I do nothing but elevate others and promote others and serve others, because there's no room for envy in agape love.